welcome back to another video, and today we're going to talk about Paphiopedilum orchids. It's been a while since I've last shown you some Paphiopedilum or that we have explored these beautiful plants or even talk about them. Today I will cover one topic that lots of people think about and I've never actually explored it a little bit further. Is the reason why Paphiopedilum orchids are a slow grower. Lots of people give up on Paphiopedilum for the fact that some Paphiopedilum species and hybrids, they take a while to mature their fronds, their divisions, and then finally to be able to bloom and rebloom. Why this happened, that's what I'm going to explore today. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about these beauties, stay here with me and let's start. These orchids, they are not epiphytes like Phalaenopsis, for example. Some people think the leaves resemble a Phalaenopsis orchid, not this one because the leaves are very light. I don't think it's very healthy. If you are wondering which orchid is this one, it is my Paphiopedilum delenatii vinicolor. That's one of the hybrids, one of the types of delenatii that we can find. There are, I think, 3 different varieties. I have just the delenatii, doesn't have any fragrance. And I decided to buy this one not only because the flowers are a bit different, but also to see if I finally have a delenatii that has some fragrance. But the Paphiopedilum delenatii, it's such a slow grower, so I think it's a very good example. The first thing is, these plants, as I was talking before, they are not epiphytes like Phalaenopsis, Capellias, some Dendrobiums. They are semi-terrestrial. They don't grow exactly in soil, but they will grow on the forest, in the canopy of the forest, in the forest litter, which that means that these plants will grow where we have all of the leaves coming from the trees, bushes, other taller plants that are around. They will shade their leaves, and then these plants will grow in that part, in that organic material that we have in the forest litter. So they don't absorb as much nutrients as some terrestrial plants or like epiphytes. On top of that, something really important about these plants is the fact that they don't have pseudobulbs or canes or structure that will save water and nutrients. So they depend only on their leaves and roots to support their growth. For this reason, these plants can also be a bit slower than some other orchids that will have super thick roots adapted to the environment like epiphytes, or super thick pseudobulbs and canes that will be able to feed our orchids and also hydrate them for a long time. So, as I was saying, for these plants to be able to bloom and rebloom, it needs to mature a completely new division. The division are called fronds. The fronds, it's going to be these flowers that we see here. They will have a leaf, not flower. They will have a leaf that will grow on top of another leaf until that it will push out finally a flower spike. For this plant to be able to bloom, it needs to fully mature a frond, which will solely depend on the roots and also in the environment that is around our plants. For this reason, because they are not aerial, they are not able to absorb humidity from the air, we cannot leave them bare rooted like we leave other orchids. They will need a lot of humidity around their roots to keep growing. So if you look at these fronds here, you're going to notice that some fronds is slightly out of the pot. So the roots that they were supposed to push and to grow, they are not able to actually keep growing these roots. So this plant is even slower because we do have less roots to be able to sustain this plant. Different from some other orchids, these plants or these fronds will be able to push out usually only 1 flower spike, and most of them will push 1 to 2 flowers. And when these flowers are spent, we would have to wait for a completely new frond to be able to grow and mature and to be able to push out more flower spikes. There are Paphiopedilums that will push multiple flower spikes. There are Paphiopedilum, there are sequential bloomers as well. So these ones, they are great because you don't have to wait for a new frond. A single flower spike will be able to push out in one flower. This flower will fade, will be gone, and the same flower spike will keep growing and pushing out more flowers. That's the case of the Paphiopedilum Pinocchio. But that's not the case of many species, and that for these ones, we have to wait for a long time for them to be able to bloom. So how can we speed the process up a little bit? Or at least help these plants to absorb a little bit more nutrients and to be able to grow a little bit faster. It will still be slow compared to some orchids, but even so, it might be a little bit better. The first tip that I'll give you is about light. Paphiopedilum, they need to receive moderate to intermediate light, I would say. So you can place them near a windowsill that won't have a super bright direct light, because they can become stressed and so a little bit slower to keep growing. Or if you place them in a completely dark room, they will not grow either. So choose a location where you have some bright light, or you have a shaded windowsill where it will receive some indirect sunlight. These plants will be super happy. They also enjoy sitting in our living rooms or maybe even in office space. If there are some indirect light, they will keep growing. They are super adaptable and flexible in this sense, but avoid the dark rooms and super strong light. Something else, it's about watering these plants. As I told you in the beginning of this video, they don't have structure to store water and nutrients. So we need to keep these pots evenly moist, never soggy, but don't let them dry for a long period of time. They become super stressed. They need to have this moist environment about their root system. I don't have humidifiers, I don't use any of it, and they seem to be doing well. The only thing that I do is I always keep an eye on my mix, and I will make sure that's evenly moist. Also, don't forget to fertilize your plant. Paphiopedilum, they are not heavy feeders, but they are like intermediate feeders. I will feed them with my other orchids. I do place a slow release fertilizer in my pot. I also offer it some orchid fertilizer with my other orchids. It's really important that we feed them so they can push out healthy structures and also push out flower spikes. Something else is about the potting mix. Very important to pay attention. As I said, they are not epiphytes. They are maybe same with the rest here. So the mix that we pot our Paphiopedilum should be ideally a mix of epiphyte plants or with some other things that will add humidity to our pots. So I pot most of my Paphiopedilum in a mix of bark and moss, but adding a little bit more moss than bark. The bark is just to aerate the mix a little bit. It will help them to grow. There are people that choose cocoa peat. There are other mix that you can explore, see what's available in your region, and see how your plant is doing. What I can say is that it's very easy to spot if your Paphiopedilum has some health issues. They will have issues with their leaves, and also when we see that we have new growths poking out of the pot, having exposed their roots, you need to unpot and repot so they will be even healthier. The roots will be able to find humidity and to keep growing inside the pot. Also, repot them each 2 years if your orchid mix is organic. So we know that organic mix, they can get old and then they start to degrade. They will change their pH, so we need to be careful with that. For this reason, I have this beauty here because it is stressed. It has been sitting here for a while and it's getting even slower to grow for me. So what I intend to do today is just grab my tray. I will show you how I repot this plant very quickly, like I repot most of my other Paphiopedilums. And the reason for me to do so is because this plant's not growing well, so I'm not doing most of the things that I just told you to do. And I want to fix it, and I'll show this beauty in the future, hopefully with beautiful blooms. So I'm gonna change the camera now, and let's repot this very quickly. Before I do it, please hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have any Paphiopedilum in your collection, if you enjoy them. And there is a super thanks here as well, if you want to support my channel even further. More than that, let's finally repot that. So okie dokie, this is my Paphiopedilum. Let me take him out of the pot. So I have it to help to hydrate my plant a little bit. It is quite moist, but I'm not happy. I know the plant is very unhealthy, so the way for me to repot it is doing as I do with all of my other plants, because this is a plastic pot. You can gently squeeze it just to make sure everything detaches from the pot, but I don't think it has many roots, so it's gonna be easy. Let's just pull and see what we have in here. Oh gosh, I was completely right. Look at that. It has barely no root. It has, we can count the roots up now. It has one root here, another root here, and the rest is all died. Oh, that's sad, actually. What I notice is I don't need this leaf. That's okay to go. This is okay to go. So I do have new funds, but the roots coming from the funds. This is a new fund. It's coming as well from the base here. So the funds, they are all buried in here, and the roots were not being able to grow because they were growing in the air and the plant was not very healthy. What I'm gonna do now is remove that so I can free the cakeys, and hopefully these cakeys here that we have at the base, this one I don't know what to do because it's gonna be buried anyway. But I have to be hopeful that these will be able to push out new roots. Mainly these two here, they are new. So if they are able to grow roots inside my pot, I'm okay. So let's repot it. I need to throw everything away, and I will reuse the same pot and the same potting mix. Actually, I could use a much smaller pot because look at the size of this plant. Don't really know what to do. Trying to think if I should reuse it. I think I'm gonna reuse it. This mix is very old. I have it in here since I bought it, which was a long time ago actually, maybe 2021. I'm not sure. So let me just clean everything, grab my tray, and let's finish. So I'm back with my side plant and everything else. What I have in here is just moss and bark. This is a low-graded bark, so the chips of bark are very, very small, which is great because this plant loves humidity, and I like to use these small bark chips with plants like Paphiopedilum. So let me add the first layer of moss here, and on top of that, it's very important that the strands here that I'm using at the bottom of this pot to hydrate the rest of the pot, that touch a little bit more from my mix. Now I'm gonna place more bark, and I'll keep actually layering more bark and moss. It's very important that I have sphagnum moss in my mix because it will help to give this pot more hydration. Oops. However, it is okay to add bark as well because, as I said, these plants, they grow in the forest litter and they are super happy with some aeration among their roots as well. But the roots only grow when they are inside the potting mix, so they really, really need their hydration. Let's see, I think it's too high in the pot. I was putting my hand in front of the camera. It's terrible, but that's fine. Let's keep adding this full of moss and bark. What I would like to do here as well here is to add some slow release fertilizer. I'll add around 5 beads or 6 beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's just the last layer. Hopefully with this plant being completely potted up now, it will grow much, much nicer than before. I will be able to have a healthier Paphiopedilum. Let me just shake a little bit so all of these little moss pieces will find its space. I want some air inside this pot, but not a lot of gaps. My last layer is going to be a whole layer of bark to look nice. What I have to make sure here is that all of the new growths, they are inside the potting mix. Otherwise, if they are not touching the potting mix, I would be able to, the roots wouldn't be able to grow inside the mix. That's what I want. However, Paphiopedilum can have crown rot like Phalaenopsis, so it's really important to be careful when I water it, but I prefer it to be like that than like it was before. I'm giving my plant better chance to grow, and now maybe photosynthesize a little bit better and grow better, healthier leaves and healthier structures. The fact that this plant is already slow and was very mistreated just made everything a little bit worse. So let me just clean my table and come here to conclude this video. So hi guys, here I am with my fully repotted Paphiopedilum, and that's a lesson about slow growers and also about healthy plants. As you could see, this plant's not only a slow grower, as it is my other Delenatii, but this one was also suffering because they didn't have many roots inside the potting mix, and the new growths roots were not touching the potting mix. So hopefully now that I have this plant fully repotted, it will start to grow a little bit faster. If you're wondering why I'm talking about it all, but my plant was not really looking really good, the reason is I have a ton of plants, a ton of orchids, and I didn't have time to get to it sooner. I usually look at my plants and see one and another that I need to do something about immediately, and I end up prioritizing some orchids, and others that are just there and that I see that are not extremely ill, I sometimes let them be, which is not good. But it happens because life gets on the way, so it's just normal, especially having daily lives and looking after a ton of other different stuff. But hopefully now my little Paphiopedilum will be able to grow healthily, and it will push out beautiful blooms that, fingers crossed, will be fragrant at some time. I do enjoy Paphiopedilum a lot, even when they are slow, like this one, because I just think their flowers are so unique. They add some wildness, elegance, all of these together to our orchid collection. So I super recommend them for beginners as well. I don't think they are super difficult to look after. You just need to bear in mind some of the things that I talked about today. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Let me know if you have Paphiopedilum in your collection. That being said, I concluded the video here. I just offered my plant some water to keep it hydrated, and I hope to see you soon. More than that, bye-bye.